Well, it's a truly dramatic race being watched very closely across the country. Alberta voters head to the ballot box tomorrow. The Wild Rose Party is hoping to topple the Progressive Conservatives, a party that has been in power in the province for more than 4 decades. Erin Collins joins us now from Calgary with more on the story. So, Erin, let's begin with just how the leaders are spending their final campaign day.
Well, the front runners are right here in Calgary. Danielle Smith and Alison Redford, the Progressive Conservative and Wild Rose leaders, will be here in Calgary. That's for a couple of reasons. Of course, the first is this is Alberta's biggest city. It's the center of the oil and gas industry, and it's really seen as an important place. A lot of swing ridings here, and if you can't take Calgary, it's really seen that you're going to have a tough time forming government here. Of course, the other big reason, Alison Redford's home riding is here in Calgary Elbow, and Danielle Smith has to head south, just south of town, into her riding near the small city of Okotoks. So they're going to be banging on doors in their own ridings. Obviously, they've been moving around the province over the last couple weeks, but also they need to be here to make sure that their parties have good showings in this city.
Okay, so it's been a very intense campaign, and the outcome is not certain at all. So just how close is this contest at this stage?
Well, I mean, it's certainly tightened over the last week. Obviously, the Wild Rose Party, some of their candidates have had some missteps with some comments that maybe painted the party as a little more socially conservative than they would have liked, and that's allowed the Progressive Conservatives to gain some ground. We've also seen potentially the collapse of Liberal support in some of the major centres here in Alberta, which is being sort of attributed to centre-left voters perhaps moving over to the Progressive Conservatives to try to stem or stop the possible Wild Rose tide that was seen earlier on in this campaign. So it is close, and it's going to be very close to call because in many ridings there could be vote splitting as well. Obviously, both Conservative parties are going to be relying on the same base of supporters, so perhaps in some ridings it could allow for that NDP or Liberal Party to come up the middle and take some seats. It's going to be a very, very interesting election day.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk a bit more, Erin, about the strategic voting aspect to all of this. Often in campaigns you hear a lot about the expectation that strategic voting is going to be a huge factor, and then it doesn't really materialize. So in this case, could it well be a factor? Does it seem to be something that's catching on?
It could be, yeah, and as I mentioned, we have seen sort of the collapse of that Liberal vote, at least here in Calgary. They traditionally get about 25% of the votes here. We've seen some numbers that put that support down at 10 or even 5%, and the feeling is that those supporters are migrating to the Progressive Conservatives. You know, we also seen some extra support going to the NDP. There's a sense that they could make some breakthroughs in Edmonton and other places around the province. But you know, the most strategic vote, I think, here in Alberta is that people might actually get out and vote. As we're seeing a close election, we saw some record low turnout numbers in 2008 with just 40% of Albertans voting, and the advance polls were very busy. And I think that if we get 60 or 70% of Albertans out to the polls, who knows how they're going to vote. So voter turnout, strategic voting could all play major roles. It's going to be a very fun day.
Absolutely. I haven't seen something like this in years. Lots to watch for. Thanks, Erin. Erin Collins in Calgary. Well,
the signs of a spring election are everywhere in Alberta, and as the campaign enters its final days, the race is tightening up. Progressive Conservative leader Alison Redford is fighting to preserve a 41-year-old Tory dynasty by looking forward.
I've been very proud of the way that we've been able to continue to talk about investing in Alberta's future. Very excited about that, and feel that this weekend's going to be a tremendous opportunity for Albertans to think about what that future is.
The Wild Rose Party had a tough week after missteps by 2 of their candidates who were accused of making homophobic and racist statements. Leader Danielle Smith defended both men.
These charges against me and my party are the last futile gasps of a frightened 41-year-old government and its allies. The Wild Rose candidates and supporters in this room and all over Alberta know the truth.
That may be, but this Calgary pollster says concerns about the socially conservative views of some Wild Rose candidates will likely cost the party votes, especially in Alberta's big cities.
The race is completely tightened up, and the amazing thing about momentum in an election campaign is that there's unpredictable consequences, especially when it happens so late in the campaign.
Advanced polls are already open, and officials there say they've been busy. A sign that interest is high in this election, a welcome change after only around 40% of eligible voters cast a ballot in Alberta's last provincial election.
Danielle Smith and Allison Redford will both wind up their campaigns here in Calgary. Winning in Alberta's city is seen as key to winning this election and determining which of Alberta's two Conservative parties will govern Canada's most conservative province. Erin Collins, CBC News, Calgary.